So they were waiting, the hostages were waiting for another plane, presumably the plane with money, before they were actually released. Former Deputy Chief of Staff to President George W. Bush and Fox News contributor Karl Rove with us right now. Karl, good morning to you. Your take on this escalating situation.
Look, the president was being disingenuous. This was a ransom. We didn't have a banking relationship, fine. Park the money at a bank in Switzerland or London or Paris and tell the Iranians to work it out. The money's in their account. And then instead, we put together untraceable euros and other currencies, flopped them onto a plane and flew them out. And this was clearly, the Iranians wanted something that they could depict as a victory. They wanted money for hostages. They got it. It set a precedent, and we're going to rue this day. The president was being disingenuous last night, as he's been about the Iranian deal all along.
Yeah, it seems so extraordinary to me and to so many people that this took place. I mean, by the way, we should point out that the Iranians had a whole propaganda machine telling the public there that it was ransom.
Right,
why was it so secretive? Why was it cash on an unmarked jet? Why wouldn't they release the hostages until the money was there? I mean, it sure feels like ransom, and it also feels like they're not being truthful in terms of what was behind all of this.
Sure. If it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. This was a ransom, and the president paid it in money that was untraceable, that was, I'm sure, turned over to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard to use to fund terrorism around the world. And again, he was being completely disingenuous. Oh, we don't have a banking relationship with them. Well, find the place that does, park the money there, and tell them to go get it. But instead, he did exactly what the Iranians demanded, which is, we want cash before you get your hostages. And again, I repeat, this was a precedent. The Iranians now hold more hostages. Does anybody think that we're going to get them out without paying another similar ransom?
Dagan and I were talking earlier about the implications of this. And do you think this sticks to Hillary Clinton in any way? Dagan said she doesn't think so, but I wonder what you think.
Well, first of all, she's going to have to be asked by the press about it. And Trump ought to put his focus there and say, what does Hillary think of this? Does she think this is good policy? After all, she was intimately involved in setting up the Iranian deal, and she was the Secretary of State when these negotiations began, and we went down this path. So, yeah, she ought to be asked about it. Right now it isn't. But remember this, in this election there are two Democrats on the ballot. One is named Hillary Rodham Clinton. The other one, whether he likes it or not, is Barack Obama. And the more that Trump makes this about Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, when they can be tied together, as they can be tied together on this, where they can be tied together on the economy, where they can be tied together on a lot of issues, the Veterans Administration, the more he can make this about, if you like what you got in Washington, from President Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, if you like it, vote for her. If you want change, vote for me. That's a strong emphasis and a strong issue that goes his way.
Karl, there's $2 billion in New York banks that Iran wants back, that at least one court, the court here, has said it should go to the victims of Iranian-sponsored terrorism. But do you think ultimately between now and Inauguration Day, for the hostages that have been taken since the first ransom payment was made, that we make another one?
Well, I think the president's probably going to make the political calculation. He shouldn't do anything between now and November 8th that gives him a chance to be more criticized. But look, I wouldn't be surprised between November 8th and January 20th if the president did do something to further assuage the mullahs in Tehran and go down that direction. Wouldn't be surprised at all.
Let me ask you this, Karl, because both presidential nominees are set to receive national security briefings ahead of the election. We know that these are going to be daily briefings. President Obama yesterday warned Donald Trump about keeping the information classified. He basically said, look, Donald Trump, this is important. You need to keep this information secret and classified. First, without me leading you anywhere, what are your thoughts on that?
Look, I think this is an unnecessary politicization of the briefing process by the President of the United States. If the intelligence officials believe that they need to say that to both candidates, then say so privately. But the President of the United States is butting into this in an inappropriate way. He is making himself more a center of the campaign and politicizing this very important process that we've set in place so that we have whoever wins the election comes in better ready to take on these awesome responsibilities. My advice to the President is, with all due respect, Mr. President, shut up.
But he's not telling both candidates. He's not speaking to them. He only said it to Donald Trump.
Only said it to Donald Trump.
Despite the fact that we know Hillary Clinton had national security secrets and put them on a private server.
Right, exactly. See, this is my point. He's turning it into all politics. Is there any moment where the president has any degree of shame about politicizing everything? I don't care what it is. He seems to believe that everything ought to be twisted in order to elect Hillary Clinton to protect his legacy rather than doing what he ought to appropriately do, which is, when it comes to something like this, if he's concerned, have the intelligence officials tell both candidates exactly the same thing, which is, please keep this confidential. Here's how we'd like you to handle this. These are the rules. Blang. It's over. And he's out of it. But instead, he has to use it as a political talking point.
Right.
He is Mr. Politics every moment, all the time, Mr. Hyperpartisan. And this is why the American people would like to have change. Why 26% think we're going in the right direction and nearly 70% think we're off on the wrong track.
Does anybody here think this is extraordinary? I mean,
I do.
We just came off of a whole investigation, and she just testified, and Jim Comey told us that she was incredibly irresponsible with this information, and yet the president does a call out on Donald Trump yesterday.
Said he's unfit earlier, and I want to, if I can, ask Karl this. The president's taken it a step further, or a step beneath the office, because he's openly baiting Donald Trump. And Karl, that's what it looks like. They're trying to set traps for Donald Trump. For sure.
And I hope he doesn't fall for it. But look, let's step back for a minute. Both of you have touched on something. Where did he call Donald Trump unfit to be president? At a news conference with a foreign leader. When we have the leader of Singapore in Washington, D.C. for an official visit, it's at that press conference that the president dives into the political pool. Again, it would have been more appropriate when he was asked those questions to say, look, today's not a day. This is not a place for politics. We're here with Mr. Lee. We're going to be talking about the world. We're going to be talking about our great relationship. And I'm not going to be answering any political questions today. Yet, there he is, standing with the leader of Singapore, and he jumps back into the political pool, bashing Donald Trump. Now, look, he's entitled to have his opinion, but he ought to be saying that in front of the Democratic National Committee, not in front of the diplomatic press corps at a diplomatic official event.
All right, Karl. Great insights, as always, from you. We appreciate your time this morning. We'll see you soon, sir.